Welcome to Corrective Consciousness episode 120, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I am your host, OldManStompy, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And Wise the Bold.
Whoa.
He came back from
void with a deeper voice.
Oh, you stole my joke.
Oh, no.
I'm a cheeky little dragon doctor.
And you changed your jobs, too.
Well, that was what that interview was all about, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a pretty good show for you this week. We had a pretty good show already on Tuesday. I hope that you enjoyed it. But today we'll be talking about mainstream horror games that we enjoy. And I use the term enjoy very loosely because they're not meant to be enjoyed like a summer salad. Enjoyed.
I don't
like
know.
the relief.
What I played horror games, I enjoyed it. Like, even if I'd give me the willies, it was an enjoyable willy.
Yeah,
okay,
just like
don't take that out of
Summer's
context.
Day.
Please don't take out. Oh, God.
It was fun for the whole family. We all had pleasant times, and we were like, what a wonderful horror game. We should do this again next summer.
Oh, God.
I mean, that does feel like the plot of a lot of like major horror franchises. That like even if you don't intend to, you're going to be going through the same shit with whoever's still alive like next year.
Yeah, right.
Fun for the whole family.
So
Lotus, you're our Resident Evil, like our. So why don't you get us started?
Whoa, that I get it.
Yes, it's a joke about a game that you occasionally spend a great deal of time talking about.
That people really want me to keep following the series of, and I'm very slow at doing it. Well,
the important thing is, do you play it in 1440 resolution?
no.
well, I mean, is there any other way?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, what's the fucking point? Even my Game Boy Resident Evil games, I play in Ultra HD these days.
I hacked my PS4, so PS1 Resident Evil would be in 12,000p resolution.
12,000p.
It looks really fucking pixely, man. It's not worth it.
Anyway,
I have to pee very badly.
But anyway, yeah, like we had talked in a previous podcast about some hidden gems of horror games that we liked, but now we can give a chance to talk about just horror games that people may have heard of, or maybe they haven't looked into or whatever, but they're maybe more well known and we enjoy them. I mean, surprise, surprise, I do like the Resident Evil series up to what I've played. The last one I played was 5. I didn't really care for 5's plot, but the gameplay was enjoyable. But I mean, Resident Evil is always a classic. I mean, like you, OldManStompy, said in the previous cast on Recon, it was kind of like the first really big mainstream survival horror game. Like Alone in the Dark came first, but it just didn't latch on the way Resident Evil did. So that's kind of been part of the horror go-to series from 96 or something until like all the way through now. And then surprise, surprise, Silent Hill is also fun, but it's a very different kind of horror. It's more psychological than scary monster gonna get you kind of horror. So in a way, it's more creepy than scary, if that makes a kind of sense. But Resident Evil and Silent Hill are generally well-known products among the horror gaming community. I'd also like to give a shout out to Corpse Party, because it's not exactly a hidden gem. Actually, they're coming to, as we mentioned before, they're coming to Steam and GOG soon. Book of Shadows actually just hit Steam today, Monday, the day we're recording this podcast. So if you want to get the previously PSP exclusive Corpse Party Book of Shadows, you can now on PC and slightly advance the series. And then the next games in the series will be available on PC as well. But I mean, those are, except for Corpse Party, Resident Evil and Silent Hill are almost like cliched answers. Like, but do you guys want to go more into those, or do you have other horror titles that you enjoy?
I just wanted to say that Silent Hill is psychological horror, and Resident Evil I would call it bio-horror.
Biohazard.
Pretty much.
Woo! Like, well, no, I mean literally the Japanese title is Biohazard.
Well, I'm very much aware of that.
Yeah, actually, one thing I really do like, which I thought was kind of amusing, is that Resident Evil 7 in America, it's called Resident Evil: Biohazard, and in Japan it's called Biohazard: Resident Evil. I thought that was kind of nice.
I really thought that it would just be called Resident Evil: and then it would just be
just
like
the end.
The bathroom.
Yeah. Butthole.
No, but I mean, what's kind of interesting though is that like I think America called it Resident Evil because Biohazard was a very generic title, and you're trapped in a house. It like Resident Evil kind of makes sense.
Maybe because there was a grunge punk band called Biohazard.
I will also say that like I was so used to like Japanese import titles having an English release title that was just like a mishmash of two words that barely made sense together, like Final Fantasy, Valkyrie Profile, Valkyria Chronicles, Resident Evil.
Final Fantasy actually made sense at the time.
Well, it doesn't anymore, and it hasn't for a long time.
But Resident Evil kind of sounded like it made sense because you were trapped in a house with evil things. It's kind of Resident, but
it took a little work.
But the name got less and less relevant though as the series went on because it became more of an actual, like, apparent biohazard outbreak. But now Resident Evil 7 is actually back into Spooky House. So it's like, yes, there we go.
Fun.
Yeah, hooray.
It was well received, it was fun, and it had a good story. Until later toward the end they managed to bugger it up again.
Yeah, I mean, no spoilers, I haven't played it yet, but we'll see how that goes, I guess.
Have fun.
Whoa, Lotus Prince, the king of Resident Evil, the prince of Resident Evil, hasn't played the newest game.
Well, like I said, I'm only up to Resident Evil 5. That was on the freaking PS3. Like, I'm actually pretty far behind if you don't include if it's not just number titles.
The last Resident Evil game was the Game Boy one, which is interesting.
Well, the last one I've played at all was 5, but the last one I've Let's played was the Game Boy Color one. Yeah, Resident Evil Gaiden.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, in that game, you could look around when you had the battle screen. Like, you could look left or right.
Yeah, I was told that, but I had no idea. I just have the cartridge. Like, it's pretty damn expensive to get the boxed copy.
Yeah.
That's true for a lot of games from that era these days. Like, just in
the
general.
Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games are, they're pretty rough to get boxed copies of if you want to not drain your wallet.
Like Shantae is like $120 or something.
Well, Shantae is like...
I'm sure it's like way more than that now.
Yeah, Shantae is an exaggerated example. Like, nothing is as expensive as freaking Shantae. That's like $1,000 or... Like, it's getting there. Like, that is an insanely expensive game.
Oh, really? Then it's skyrocketed because, like around the... Like, it used to be around $200, like, long after it was out of print.
Oh, people wish...
I'm not surprised that it went, like, way up in price.
No, it went way up now that Shantae got popular with, like, the newer games. So, I don't know if it's $1,000, but, like, it is... hundreds of dollars for sure.
Well, it's also $9.99 on the 3DS eShop.
I know, that's so good. I love stuff like that, like Earthbound, like $600 or or $10.
Earthbound also like kind of fucking scary from time to time.
Yes.
Moonside, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Whose bones are these? Your bones.
I was actually gonna say that. Yeah, bone. That was. You know what was interesting about Moonside is that you could get into like enemy encounters like in buildings, like including the hospital. Like that never happens. Like there's a couple of places in the game where that can happen, but it's always like very jarring when it does. You know. Yeah.
I think at the museum, like you can get attacked by a mummy or something. Like that was weird. Also, like the game was like existentially very strange. You know,
playing it as an adult was a very different experience.
I think
when I played it as a kid, I was like terrified.
Yeah.
I think me, Weiss, and Lotus gutted the topic a little bit.
We did talk a bunch about Earthbound, like especially toward the end of the game, which I won't describe what it goes into.
Mm-hmm.
Like the stakes are real, and that game gets serious business.
Oh, I forgot this was the topic last week. I was not included in that.
Yeah,
Shame on you again.
We were discussing Earthbound and what Weiss knew at the time of Undertale. He has since beaten Undertale, but
we can talk about Undertale then.
Yeah, finally.
Yay.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd call this mainstream horror. The Souls games border on scary, although Bloodborne I could accept as a horror game. Game's creepy as shit.
Mm-hmm.
Supremely uncomfortable.
I'd call those, and also like Hollow Knight, a lot of the games in the Souls like space to be like creepy more than they're like scary.
Yeah, exactly. Same with Corpse Party.
I would call it more somber, like rather than the horror game. But yeah, I can.
Yeah, it's certainly not a horror
game.
Game.
The game is not horror, but the setting is. I would say.
Yes. Right. Yeah, you would not want to live there. Living there is the true nightmare. But like, as a video game, it's not horror, but it has creepy parts. So like, but I mean, Bloodborne though, I really could take. Like, I don't know if I would personally consider it a horror game, but like, I could easily be convinced. I think if someone else said, I think it's a horror game, I'd be like, all right.
Well, it's Lovecraftian. It's not necessarily horror. Like, just because Lovecraft is generally associated with cosmic horror doesn't necessarily mean that like something that's inspired by it.
Yeah, but even before the cosmic horror stuff, like the enemies before you get into that territory are still really messed up. Like even the creepy birds on the ground that when you get close they flap wildly and they're way louder than the rest of the game, so it's super jarring. It's just like
Yeah, that's sort of why I go towards like creepy, because even if it isn't like scary, a lot of it is unsettling.
Yes.
Like parts of Dark Souls. So like there are levels in Hollow Knight where it looks like there are bugs crawling on the screen. Like it's meant to really disturb you.
Mm-hmm. And oh man, you should see parts in Dark Souls 2 and Bloodborne, like when they get spiders involved. Dark Souls 2 spiders actually, Dark Souls 2 spiders actually really aren't that bad. Like they're big spiders and they're creepy for that reason. But like once you see how they attack, you're like, oh, they're just crawling enemies in the shape of spiders. But Bloodborne spiders are fucked. Like those things are horrible because they actually move like spiders. So even though they're like half the size of the room, they skitter. So like all of a sudden they're on you. It's the worst. Like it's.
I mean, like that's not supposed to happen with something that big, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's the thing. Like, yeah, there's like a bunch of really big spiders, but one big spider, and that thing is just on you. Like it's horrible. Like it's not supposed to happen.
Dracologist, you had a point.
Yeah.
I wanted to say like, and one of them has a human head.
Yeah. That's a very. I don't know. Oh, that I know what you're talking about. That's a character. But the thing with that is I don't know about Bloodborne necessarily, but I do know that there are elements of Dark Souls 1, and I am pretty damn sure Dark Souls 2 that took inspiration from Berserk and Demon Souls, and Berserk has a real thing with putting human heads on things that don't look like anything. Like, not even an animal. It's just like, put a human head on it. Like, and it's way creepier. It really is.
By the way, I wanted to say, like, did you know that in Hollow Knight there is a Berserk reference?
There's a what?
A Berserk reference in Hollow Knight.
Okay, I did not know. Oh, Berserk reference. No, I did not know that. Which part? Just to give me a vague point.
When the seer opens up this graveyard area.
Oh, okay. I will have to look at it. I know what you're talking about, but I did not recognize the reference. So, Lotus, have you played Hollow Knight?
No, but I would like to.
Okay, I just have to contextualize. I need to make sure. Yeah.
Because
that game vexes me because it's such a good game, but I'm not sure I would be able to beat it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But like as far as Demon Souls is concerned, there are a bunch of creatures that look like they came right out of the Cliff-Off, like that forest with all the fucked up bugs with human heads. Like, Demon Souls has a million of those. In Dark Souls, you basically get Guts' sword. Like, it's implied. Like, it's more a big slab of metal than a sword, and you're like, alright. And like, in Dark Souls 2, just real quick, in Dark Souls 2, there's one particular enemy type that just looks and kind of moves like Guts in the Berserker armor. And it's really on the nose, actually.
Just wanted to say that one of my friends said, like, alright, get it with that game developer, you like Berserk, why don't you just make a Berserk game?
That was taken, it's called Berserk Musou.
Yes.
It's brilliant.
But can you imagine if like someone would make a Berserk game that is more Dark Souls?
I could kind of buy it. I mean, that's basically Darkroot Garden in Dark Souls 1. That place fucking sucks. It's like the creepiest place in the game. As far as of course, another horror staple is Fatal Frame. Although I don't know what people are doing with it right now. Like it became a Wii U exclusive, and then like, oh wait, nobody likes the Wii U, and nobody fucking marketed Fatal Frame 5. So there's a problem. But Fatal Frame 5 was pretty good. Not my favorite Fatal Frame game, but it tried new things, and whether you like them or not, it was a clever decision.
It's an interesting game, but I think that like the ghost hunting mechanic got a little bit arcadey toward the later games.
Yeah.
Like which is like snapshot, aim shot, like rapid fire. Like, okay, calm down.
Well, that was they had stuff like that as far as back at the first game. It was just like
by the second game, it kind of already feels like this, like the fact that you have a camera with ammunition, like it's a little bit. It takes me a little bit out of the game.
And bonus points, by the way, for the second game's remake on the Wii, you actually can get a second player involved, so you could get like synchronized shots for a bonus point. So
like
you have that
at this point,
really.
At this point, like the ghost should be posing for you, like, yeah, work it, baby.
I mean, they basically are. It's just that if you miss the pose, you die.
Fatal Frame 3 introduced I think all of them actually had it, like the Fatal Frame moment when they're just about to grab you and the camera flashes for a second. It's not a pose, but I mean, it's a really good shot of the ghost, so it's basically a pose anyway.
So like
I will say that Spirit camera got me a couple of times, just because, like, even though in principle it's not really quite as scary as a regular Fatal Frame game, just because it's like, you know, it's like so gimmicky. Like the fact that sometimes a ghost is behind you and it's like actually behind you, like that fucked me up a couple.
You have to turn around. That's actually really clever. Like the fact that you have to turn around in your chair or something, or if you're standing, just
right. Like you don't know where that ghost is. It's somewhere like on the screen. You can hear it, and it's like
that's a very meta, like, Pokemon Go kind of thing, where it's like, it is behind you. Like, that's a clever idea.
Mm-hmm.
And Fatal Frame 5, like, introduced, like, they never gave her a proper name in the American version. She was, like, a tall woman or something. But she was totally, like, Hachishaku-sama, which is, like, a Japanese urban legend. She's, like, this 8-foot tall woman. But, like, that's basically the Japanese equivalent of, like, having Slender Man be one of the ghosts. Like, I know that one! So there's no lore for that ghost at all. It's more like a cameo ghost. It's creepy as shit, I'll give him that. That's my favorite ghost in the game, interestingly enough, but it's like Link in Soul Calibur 2. They gave him a story, but not really. It's like, he's in a fighting game, have fun, you know?
Speaking of Slender, that spawned an entire heap of horror games.
Oh, yeah.
Outlast was one of these. I never liked...
Oh yeah, it had like a similar premise. Or not premise, but still execution.
I didn't like Outlast. I didn't like it at all. It was too, like, bombastic for, like... It was bragging about it, like, how it was made by, like, big name developers. Like, it's like we picked up, like, everybody else, like, from... What's that game you really like and Vice really like with Nathan Drake? Uncharted, like from the developers of like Prince of Persia and Uncharted, like, and you guys are gonna make a horror game?
I mean, why not? They made The Last of Us, which isn't a horror game, but like it showed that they certainly have what it takes.
It's a post-apocalyptic easy V pattern.
But shit's creepy.
It has monsters in it that can kill you in one shot because...
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not a horror game, but like it's way darker. They can do dark.
Well, I mean, dark's not quite the same as horror. Like, you can make a grim game without it being scary. Like, being scary takes kind of... Yeah.
Speaking of which, I still want to... Well, I mean, like, Game Workshop said that there will be a Warhammer 40k horror. I don't know what that covers, but...
That's actually kind of interesting because the whole universe of Warhammer 40k...
I was going to say, isn't it just a regular Warhammer 40k game?
Yeah, like, I mean, obviously those games aren't horror, but like, that whole universe is a nightmare.
Yeah, but mostly it's just seeing giant dudes in battle, is it power armor bumping into each other. Like, someone said that if you want to start with Warhammer universe, you don't want to start with the Space Marines, because, like, you can expect that everything will be...
Yeah, they have a chance.
No. That's not because that they have a chance. It's because, like, it's like starting. It's like trying to learn to drive, and then you immediately sit into the fighter jet cockpit. Like that's not how it starts.
Oh, okay.
Like, you want to start with, like, the Astra Militarum, Inquisition. It's basic descriptions of various worlds. Because despite how grim everything is described, there are worlds that looks and functions very properly. Like, there are simple paradise lands where you have like seaside mansions and stuff where people can...
So you gotta like work your way into the horror stuff.
The horror stuff.
I mean, I guess it would be like a Cthulhu game where you just start off in the fucked up Elder One's universe, as opposed to like slowly realizing that things are wrong.
Well, basically, it's important to know that most people don't know about the horrors of the world. Like, there is many horrors to the Warhammer universe because there are the horrors of the aliens, the Xenos, because there are like who want to meet with a tyrannid or a gene stealer. There are the horrors of the other the non-material aliens like Catan, which are like hard to describe. Like they are entities with physical forms that can suck the life out of you and snap their fingers and create like technology that just exists, like unbelievable technology that just get manifested into air. And then there is the warp, which is like demon hell, horrible things. Which, like,
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, at least in terms of one of the things that you're describing, that like for an average person in the Warhammer 40k universe who has no like nothing remarkable about them, they would have no reason to care about anything that's going on in the universe. They're just like trying to live a normal life for the most part, and if they happen to be happy with it, that's fine.
Well, more or less, like you're basically slaving away your life as a simple citizen in factoriums and stuff. But yeah, like starting your like Warhammer 40k horror game would be like if you start up like some sort of junior inquisitor or just a soldier, like a common guardsman, and you just get deeper and deeper in this mind-numbing madness, trying to just survive, not getting your body part lopped off or infected with demonic viruses.
I mean, it's like this has happened in the past. Like I can think of Half-Life. A couple of the later games have just taken the role of just like a random security guard at Black Mesa, as opposed to being Gordon Freeman, who like actually has the agency to take care of some of the problems that the universe is experiencing. So you feel a little bit over your head.
Although even Gordon Freeman is like, he happens to be really capable, but like he was like an engineer. Same thing with Isaac from Dead Space. Like he's not a soldier. He just happens to be good with his weapon. And, like, look at all this shit now. Like, have fun. Or, like, System Shock, you're a hacker. Like, you're not meant to deal with this.
That's true, but, like, in Half-Life, like, Gordon Freeman becomes, the one free man. He's, like, a symbol of the rebellion.
Well, he becomes, yes. But in Half-Life 1, it's like, I guess I'll deal with
it. You are getting chased around by, like, you are basically told that this is send out the distress signal by getting chased around by military and aliens.
Yeah, or even in Deus Ex. Well, that's a little unfair. In Deus Ex, you are a superhuman, but, like, you're dealing with day-to-day governmental stuff in a world where superhumans exist, even on a civilian level. But then, like, the conspiracy runs deeper and deeper, and there's, like, aliens and shit in Area 51, and you're like, what?
Yeah, but that's a more jokey about it.
It is kind of, but still, like, it goes deep.
In some contexts, that's really exciting. Like in Dark Souls 3, you are like literally the shittiest undead. Like you are so crappy that like, it's amazing that you can do what you do. Like sometimes that's totally fine, and it becomes like triumphant when you finally win the game. Right?
Well, yeah, in Demon's Souls, you're just another hero who goes into the void to see if they could stop the bad guys. In Dark Souls 1, you're in a cell. Like, you're some dude who was captured by someone before. Whatever you were doing, you failed. And then you, like, potentially rule the world. In Dark Souls 2, you're just another person coming to this land because of some curse that's affecting everybody. And maybe you're going to be the one to break the curse. I don't know. So, like, you always start out as a nobody, which the game really accentuates by making it a custom character. It's like you're somebody.
I honestly want, like, a horror game, like Lovecraftian horror game, where you don't go bonkers on the first sight of a tentacle. Because I want to see a horror, like sort of this Lovecraftian hero, like main protagonist who is like a little bit more
He's
jaded.
Used to this stuff. He's like a paranormal...
That and a bit jaded, like, oh well, here we go.
Well, actually, I'm kind of reminded, I think I might have mentioned this in a previous podcast, but there's the board game, Arkham Horror, which is a lot of fun to play. But we were playing with our friend Perry, because he's the one who owns the game, and the thing with when monsters show up, just being in their presence, like when a turn is over, if you're still within eyeshot of them, then you take a bit of sanity loss, and obviously if they fight you and hit you, then you take some health loss. And if you run out of health, then you get hospitalized, and if you run out of health again, then you're dead. If you run out of sanity, you're institutionalized, and if you run out of sanity, you're dead. So you have like two different health meters. But what was funny is one of the weaker enemies in the game is called, I don't know why it's one of the weaker ones, but it's called a fire vampire. And
I know
It does-
that they are creatures that I think manifest as lightnings. They strike down people.
Yeah, well,
very
like they didn't have any sanity loss effect. So Perry was just saying, like, imagine you're going down the street and you see a fire vampire, and you're like, I'm okay with this. And it just cracked me up. Like,
because again,
I've seen worse, I guess. Yeah.
Because again, in lore, like the fire vampire is nothing just a bolt of lightning that suddenly sucks the life out of you when it hits.
I know, but it's just funny because their character art like didn't look like that. It looked like a vampire. So it's just like, yeah, whatever.
But,
Like, it was just funny.
no, they don't. Someone was like a little bit imaginative.
Either I'm remembering it wrong or just fuck it, fire vampire.
So
I mean,
I know this from Magic the Gathering history that occasionally, like, people who are contracted to make art for cards games just will just read the title and have no idea if they don't have good art direction.
yeah,
like,
it's amazing when that happens too, because you get to see some really original stuff. I love it.
There's a very famous Magic the Gathering picture, and it's slightly relevant because it's Spirit. It's called, like, Hyaptolerus Lemure, and, like, it's supposed to be Lemure, Lemure, which is an obscure word for spirit.
It's kind of ghost, yeah.
Yeah, but the artist read it as lemur, like a
nice.
lemur. And they drew a little, and they had no fucking clue what the first word meant at all, so they just drew a little furry guy on it.
That's amazing. I love stuff
funny.
like that. It's so good.
Monkey ghost.
What's also kind of
yes.
funny is when you see alternate art for like the same card, you know, when it's re-released years later, and it's not even close to what the original one was. It was just two completely different interpretations, and usually both of them are cool, but it's like these are not the same thing, even though they're the same thing.
That keeps reminding me, like the one of the cards, like there was a Hungarian card game of Magic the Gathering style game, and there was an artist who drew a very distinctive sort of pencil style, and I don't know, like I think it was very rare, so there actually made a card called the Manifestation of Genius, which was like a card that anyone.
Oh yeah, it was like Einstein. Well,
no.
Oh no, I was thinking of something else.
No, it was like basically gave like every time if you play that card, that every card from that artist gains bonuses.
Nice.
Oh, so Magic has done this. They actually had it's not it's sanctioned for tournament play, but in one of the unsets, the satire sets,
Yeah.
there are cards that that reference the artist. Like one it's called like Circle of Protection Artist is one of them. You can name an artist and like you can pay mana so you don't take damage from cards with that specific art. They tend not to do. They don't do this in the regular game because it would violate the design principles to like have cards from different artists but the same rules text actually like behave differently in a game state. So it's not something they track.
Well, my favorite was was when they got meta with the artist. There was one particular artist, Rebecca Guay, who has a very distinctive art style, but eventually I think she was fired or like released from the position of being an artist for Magic the Gathering because I don't know, like I guess people like somebody didn't like her art style or something, but the fans got furious and the fan backlash actually got them to rehire her. So I don't even remember what the quote was on one of the uncards. But it was cited as like Rebecca (parentheses don't mess with me Guay). I was like, yes, yeah.
Yes, I recall that she had a very distinctive style. She's gone on to illustrate like a large number of Magic cards since then.
Oh yeah,
she's very popular.
And there's also like Presence of the Master, which is it's a drawing of fucking Einstein, and this was not an uncard. This was like an actual like base set Magic the Gathering card.
There's also one card called Invoke Prejudice that has like KKK members on it, and the artist was like a legitimate neo-Nazi.
Yes.
So like there's some interesting shit in there.
Yeah.
A
little bit.
Someone took the art direction in the card name a little bit too literally.
No, I also like the entire Arabian Nights set where they had to like quickly make the set and were like they were looking for flavor text and they're like, I don't know, man, go through 1001 Nights and just find what looks like relevant text to use. Like they really had to rush that. It ended up being pretty cool, but it's just kind of funny.
Anyway,
so
very relevant to modern card games.
Back to spoopy scary skeletons.
Spirit of the Night in Magic the Gathering is a creepy looking card.
Right, very much so.
Perfect
So anyway,
segue.
When I wasn't on the last spooky game podcast, I had actually said that I didn't want to do it because spooky games weren't really my wheelhouse. Lotus asked me what games I had played, and I was like, yeah, I played like Silent Hill 2, Silent Hill 4, like Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 4, Fatal Frame 1, Fatal Frame 2, I own Amnesia, I have Soma. And you were like, Jesus, those are like really scary games. Like why did you say this?
Those are like upper tier horror games. Like those are the ones people actually talk about.
Because those games, the ones that I can actually make it through, they fucked my shit up. Like I don't. So I forget if I've told you the story before, but when I played Silent Hill 4, which is supposed to be like one of the least scary Silent Hill games, or at least like the least regarded ones,
it's conceptually creepy, but it doesn't have any like kind of moments. Not really.
So, the conceit of that game is that you go back to, like, your room, so to speak. Your the framing device is that you're trapped in your apartment and you're, like, exploring this tunnel that takes you to different areas around or related to Silent Hill. And so, but eventually, and, like, the apartment is your safe space where you regenerate health, but, like, halfway through the game, it gets corrupted and you start seeing visions while you're in there in first person. It's really scary.
If you have, like, candles or, like, medals, you can dispel that stuff. But
the first time you see it and you just see your health start draining while you're inside what you used to think is your safe space, like that's pretty messy.
The best is when a ghost comes through the wall and like,
brilliant.
Just out at you.
That's brilliant actually, because like the mechanic establishes that that's your safe space, and then suddenly it takes it away from you. This is what Ben Croshaw talked about Resident Silent Hill 4.
Yeah.
So I thought that was excellent, but like I stayed up till like 7 o'clock in the morning, like beating that game, and so on top of that, my roommate, I was overseas at the time at CERN, and let me tell you, like, that was like CERN was a bit of a sausage party. So what happened next, I did not expect. My roommate actually went out partying, and he brought a girl home, and they were having sex, like at 7 o'clock in the morning, which I had never fucking heard in like 2 years we've been living together. So like here I am sitting in my room at 7 in the morning playing Silent Hill: The Room, and I start hearing like fucking moaning and like thumping in my apartment. I have no clue where it's coming from, and I was just like, I am so done. I don't need this right now. I must be going out of my mind.
That's fantastic.
And I walked a mile and a half from my apartment all the way back to the CERN compound. I didn't go to sleep, and I sat in my office early in the morning. I was just like, I can't deal with this. Like just.
And then your boss comes in. You're asleep at your desk. Like, what a dedicated worker. Have a promotion.
So I played the Stanley Parable, which is not a horror game, but I played it in my office at CERN late at night, and like I just got like really unsettled. Like like once all the lights went out around me, while I was like trying to get out of the office building.
Oh.
After having played this game about being trapped in an office environment.
Yeah.
So
I was trying to think of something. Oh yeah, regarding Silent Hill 4, this actually calls back to your weird and surprisingly weirdly appropriate Brock Lesnar running on his hands thing from last time. I will say one of the few parts of Silent Hill 4 that are like panic-inducing scary, rather than conceptually scary, is probably. I mean, you beat the game, right?
I did beat the game, yes.
So you remember the twin victims, like with the big black shape with like the two baby heads?
Like vaguely, yes.
Yeah, well, they're like the scariest part of the game because like I don't think they have legs, so they run at like Silent Hill character running speed on their hands, and they're chasing you down. It's creepy as shit. But what's also really creepy is that you know that as the bad guy is going through the game, he's killing particular victims up to 21, and it's like. This victim is like I don't remember what their titles are, unfortunately, but each victim has a title, and you are going to be the receiver. Like that's your title. But before you really know that, you don't quite make out what they're saying. But in retrospect, it does make sense. If you like see those twin victims for the first time, it's really creepy because they're standing on their two giant hands. They'll lift one of their hands, so they're standing on one hand. And they'll point at you and whisper, like, receiver. And then they start chasing you. It's like, it's really creepy.
Wow, it sounds even creepier when you say it. Like,
actually, like, I wanted to say, like, this kind of connects well with what my experiences when my start is, because remember Lotus from a few previous Let's Play before? Shadow Man! That had also a little two-headed hand-walking monster. They were much smaller, but yeah, they were annoying.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, what a weird connection to make that actually makes sense. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Shadow Man had these crawling, like, baby-looking things that, yeah, they really did do that. Like,
no, I think they were human-sized. They just didn't have legs.
That's what it was? Okay. But yeah, like, they had, like, weird gibberish, but eventually you kind of realize that they're saying Shadow Man, like, Shadow Man. And like, it's just like, like, they know who I am. Ugh.
Everyone knows you, that you are pretty much the god of the dead side.
Yeah. Shadow Man is one of those games also not horror, but, like,
it is
really
horror.
fucked up with a lot of scary moments.
Yeah, can I talk about this, because it was that was my horror initiator in a few sense. Like,
that's your first one? That's fucked, man. That game's creepy.
yeah, like I really enjoyed it because it was an action game, though, and it's like it's a Metroidvania. Like, you can explore, you unlock new abilities.
You do mostly feel that you have control of the situation, but everything is creepy.
Like, you can only die if you're in the last boss fight. But
yeah, those pigmen who like roar at you when they see you,
yeah,
scared the shit out of me because it's way too loud.
Like, the sound design of Shadow Man 1 is brilliant. Like, every weapon, like your shadow gun is very sharp, very harsh sounding.
Choom, like that sound. Yeah, it's pretty great.
The enemies sound horrible. The music is very creepy. Like,
oh, and also, I didn't realize this, but I mentioned several times in my Let's Play that Shadow Man has a wonderful voice, especially for narration. Whenever you would enter a new level, he'd be like, the Asylum. And like, he had a really good voice. Apparently, a few people in the comments told me that he is actually the Inner Worlds, like, movie trailer guy. And like, that makes sense.
It's Dan LaFontaine. Nice.
His name is Red Pepper, by the way. The guy is called Red Pepper, and I think he's British. I don't know.
That guy's freaking rad.
Yeah, like his like voiceover for every level start is great, and the banter between the various characters is also was fun.
The banter actually feels a little more like reading lines, even though the dialogue is generally clever. But those level narrations, like, here it comes, I'm in a new place. Oh, this place is messed up. You don't even want to know. Like, that dialogue's amazing. It's really good.
What about like the thing about the Shadow Man is not the visual horror. Like, when I was when I first played the game, I really didn't like the prison levels, because like the whole like what do you call that?
Well, all the walls kind of look the same.
No, like the Jacob's Ladder, like this scanner thing was a little bit too much for me. I didn't like. What
do you mean Jacob's Ladders thing?
Like the whole twitching, and like the people start twitching around.
Oh, okay, yeah. The rapidly fast head twitching, that Silent Hill kind of picked up and made its own, yeah.
And it's like their heads fly off, and just like the headless corpse start like charging at you.
That I love that level. I like the twitching. That didn't come off to me as Jacob's Ladder so much as it was the fact that they were living people who had that happen to them. Like, when you kill enemies, they flail about. So okay, but like for the victims in the prison, I was like, oh no.
And if you notice, they only happen when you are around.
Of course, and they make the most disgusting sounds, even though they shouldn't because they don't have a head. But they make this like gurgling, like sound when they attack you, and it's like it's awful.
They still have their lungs. So
I guess, but they have no vocal cords anymore. But it's really gross.
Anyway, so Jack's level was okay. Like, that was pretty simple.
The
London sewers.
The subway. I mean, it was a sewer level though, so I was like, all right. Like, there were a couple of parts where you went outside and you're on the streets of London, and I was like, yo, and it was like for one room, and then you're back underground again. It's just tunnels.
Yeah. I really enjoyed Avery Mark's level, like the apartments complex, because that was
by far the scariest area in the game.
I wouldn't say so.
That area was fucked up. Like, I mean, if you're playing the game a second time,
sort of this
it's like the least scary. Yeah, like if you're playing the game
Hannibal.
Yeah, if you're playing the game a second time, it's like the least scary place in the game because there's like 2 enemies in the entire stage. But when you don't know anything, that place is horrifying because it's so claustrophobic and everything is creepy.
And the guy is running like he's just doing the amnesia thing when you have just a monster. It's just only there for a split second and then disappears in a poof.
Yeah, like I don't want to fight this guy.
Yeah, but but like the zone, like the undead side levels are just sort of this desolate landscape they made from rock, stone, wood, and flesh and skin. But the asylum levels are fantastic. Like this.
The asylum levels are brilliant. Yeah.
The Gothic cathedral of pain and torment, and like one of the things I think I mentioned in a comment, but like there is a room where you walk in and you like. There is a cage with a female deadsider in it, and in the same room there's a gynecologist chair. It's like, oh.
Yeah, there's a lot of implication in that game of various torture implements and stuff.
And like
I think the Alice games had that too. Like there was a lot of like rape imagery dealing with her, like around what she was going through, especially in the second game was like really
I was
bad.
gonna say mainly the second game. The first game was more just plain creepy, with some allusions to the real world. But the second game definitely took that a lot harder, a lot further. Like there was actually a level where, you're inside your own head, and there's like a drill bit inside the giant head that is your room, like implying trepanning, and it's just like, wow, man, I don't need this right now.
Yeah, what else was in Shadow? Like, I know the playrooms were fun, and once I had to turn off the music because it was getting to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The playroom's music's really creepy because it's like little it's music box music, and you hear like drill sounds and little child giggling. Laughter. It's like it's really like the first time you go there. Number one, the music is really unnerving, but also the way you enter the playrooms, which are that's some name, by the way. They're called the playrooms because those are like the torture chambers. But the way you enter that whole area is you're swimming underwater, or under blood because dead side. But like you're going through these clear tunnels, so you see all these rooms you're passing by, and you're like, I'm gonna have to be there. And these places are all fucked up. It's like Amnesia. There's a level, like the area of Amnesia where like all the creepy, horrible horrors happen. There's one large area of this dungeon called the choir, because a lot of the rooms have like church-sounding names, but the choir is fucked because there are pipes moving all through these rooms that have an open end, like for PA intercom system, like old-timey intercoms. It's just literally a long pipe from wherever you're talking to the room, but the pipes are meant to, like, no one's alive there now, but the pipes are meant to, like, broadcast the screams of the various tortured, and that's why it's called a choir, and it's like, god damn, dude, you thought of this? So, like, the playrooms are another really, like, sick name for a sick purpose.
Yeah. And like the music of that game is again fantastic. Like
Shadow Man's technical aspects are on point.
And like the other game, like was the big initiator was Undying. I think we both, like Lotus and I, both know this.
Yeah,
game.
Clive Barker's Undying. Yeah, that's another. That's like Eternal Darkness. It's Lovecraft without calling itself Lovecraft. It's a well-made game. Like technologically, it's like the various tricks it pulls, it's pretty clever, and I really would like to see one of my favorite moments, even if it's incredibly scary, is like when you enter the artist guy's room, and like the door slams shut, you can't get out. Like the artist is interesting, yeah.
And like suddenly, like the door starts, like someone banging on the door, and suddenly the doors fly open, like backward open, and you just see this gaping void.
There's some creepy stuff in there.
Well, one of my favorite.
You were going to say something?
Yeah.
Well, sorry, OldManStompy was going to say something before.
That was quite some time ago, but you guys can continue. I don't know these two particular games, so I'm happy to let you guys take over the podcast, and I'll just sit here and fall asleep.
Yeah.
I think the last thing about Undying, just wanted to say the last favorite thing on my Undying was like the ending conversation between the two characters and the part where you are talking to the little bird people. And that was
pretty great. Yeah, Undying definitely took you like. The game is very obviously a horror game by looking at it, but it goes to places you wouldn't expect. Here's a fun fact. It was actually there was a trailer for Undying that didn't show any gameplay. It was like an FMV trailer of FMVs that you never see in the actual game. It was made just for the trailer. But American McGee's Alice came with an Undying trailer, and it was like it revolved around Valentine's Day because like the family's together and it's a good time, but it's a creepy fucked up family, and that's like, it's creepy. So it was actually kind of interesting to see. I recommend you look up the Undying trailer on YouTube if you could find it. You could probably find it. It's pretty cool.
So I mean, like that's great. It's probably it will never be the scariest trailer for a game in history. That honor will like always go to PT. Like it's unbelievable that a trailer for a game is scarier than most like entire games.
Well, that's the thing. Even outside of the concept of playing PT, when you're just watching the video at the end, here's the Silent Hills trailer. That was creepy as shit. Like that was amazing.
like I watched someone play through the game, so I had those extra 2 people like with me, along with like me and my wife and my little sister while we were watching this thing together.
Yeah.
You know, and I was still like scared so shitless that I woke up like I woke up in a fetal position next to my wife on
like
the next day.
Like back when Silent Hills was going to be a thing, there's like a semi-famous quote from Hideo Kojima which said like he said something like a lot of games, I think like, including Silent Hill, are like piss your pants scary. We want to make Silent Hills shit your pants scary. And it was like, oh jeez.
It seems like they succeeded, although
alone was like it got in your head, man.
I'm ashamed that I showed my wife my weakness by doing that. So she's taken advantage of me ever since.
Yeah, now she has become Lisa in the PT, and she resets your hallways.
I'll tell you a story. So my wife really enjoys jump scaring me when I come home from work, which is like the most fucked up thing that you can imagine. So once I the first couple times it happened, I was like focusing so hard on the lights being out in the apartment and like nothing going on. I was like, she's hiding somewhere. She must be hiding somewhere in my head. So I'm like focusing really hard on where she could be, and of course she just comes like flying out of somewhere. And I'm like, I need to relax. I can't keep doing this. I can't like keep getting tense because that's how she gets me. So like I see that we live on the 2nd floor, so the lights are out. She must be doing this shit again to me. So I park my car. I get out of the car. I like take a deep breath. And I'm like, loosen up. You're gonna get her this time. You're not gonna let her. She's not gonna get you. So I take a deep breath. She
comes out from the bushes by the front door.
I open the door. I like face toward the staircase, close the door, and she's behind the fucking door. It's like, damn it, you got me again. So
actually,
wait, I got one more.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So we moved to a 1st floor apartment, which is where we live right now. And I came home one day, and all I saw next to the door there's like a little footstool where I sometimes use it to take off my shoes, and there was like a single Nerf gun with 1 bullet, like a tiny little Nerf pistol, like the ones we take to MagFest.
She's getting original.
And I was like, well, this is now like full on survival horror. I have limited ammunition, and so I walk into the room, and of course, as usual, all the lights are out, except that I can still see the glow from the computer screen, which is usually playing Final Fantasy XIV, and I can see her over there, and I'm like, oh, this must be something else, I must have missed something. So I walk over, and I'm about to say, give her, like, a kiss hello, and I see that it's not her. She set up, like, a mannequin head.
Oh,
and, like,
what? Are you shitting me?
In front of her computer screen. And so I'm like, God, like, this is so much worse.
I was gonna say, like
she puts effort in it, man.
I was actually gonna say, if I had a person whom I lived with who kept jump scaring me, like, I actually really wouldn't take that well. I would get pretty angry after like the 2nd time. I'm not tolerating this shit. But I gotta say, with a setup like that, I wouldn't even be mad. That's too good.
It continues. So like I went to the bedroom, and now like I was like, oh, now she's asleep, but she can't possibly be asleep after spending all this effort. And of course it was. I walk over, and I'm like, oh, this must be like pillows, under the bed sheets, and I pull it over, and I was right, it was pillows, but like the action of me pulling over the blankets was like her signal to just come flying out the other side of the bed and just like fire a Nerf gun.
There's like a spring-loaded body in the bed, like whoa.
So my life is never boring. That's why I would say, you asked me this question right before we started the podcast, like what's my favorite horror game? My favorite horror game is like real life, right?
Yeah.
It's like a little bit more of an existential horror, and like the ending's like real shit,
No, by the way,
I haven't gotten there yet.
No, you know what the scariest jump scare ever would be, though, I think? Like, if you have a dog, bonus points if it's like a dark brown or a black dog.
Okay.
Just, like, attach like large like pipe cleaners or foam like pool.
Oh, I've seen this. You can make it look like a spider.
Yeah, make it look like the dog has spider legs. Like, I mean, anyone, like a child, could figure this out. But like when the door opens and it just comes running at you, like your brain is like, that's shaped like a spider. So like there is nothing on Earth that's scarier than that, because like spiders aren't really that big. This isn't a horror game. So
well, that's not entirely true. There are definitely some spiders in like Australia that are fairly close to dog size. So like, don't say that.
well, whatever. In fucking like New Jersey, New York, like a spider that size running at you at dog speed, like you would hear the shriek for like miles. Like there's no
way.
way.
I've seen this picture too. Like I've seen the picture. It's like a Halloween thing. People do
and
it.
It's a cute dog too. It's like it's just a dog being a dog. It doesn't know it's terrifying.
What the fuck? Like it's really unsettling because the movement is so unnatural, but it looks like
because the legs aren't moving. It's just kind of like the fake legs are just kind of floating. So you're like, what? So the spider's just kind of like video game moving toward you.
It's fast enough that it triggers like your fight or flight response.
That's the thing. It's fast enough that you have to react, and your brain is like, that most looks like a spider. Like the brain is not going to immediately be like dog with fake appendages. Like who would think that immediately? So like, that is the worst, man. It just comes flying at you. If it barks, that kind of kills the scare a little bit, but. Yeah.
I don't know. If a spider barked at me, like, I'd be pretty fucking scared.
Like, can you imagine, like, you're sitting in one of the corners from a cobweb, something you can woo, woo.
No,
I would look up from the screen and look around.
Though,
I would be nonplussed, but I wouldn't be scared.
Well, no, there is something to be said, though, for animals that make the wrong noises. Like you know how hyenas have that stereotype of laughing? Have you ever actually heard hyenas panting while they're chasing prey?
I have not.
Like it's not like the cartoons are not exaggerating that much. It actually sounds like laughter. It's fucking creepy. So like if a hyena actually were chasing you, and they will eat anything, it's like laughing as it's chasing you. That's fucking awful. There is also, like, you know how humans have, like, duck calls and other kinds of bird calls and different animal calls? Which, that itself is a horror movie right there for the animals. But, like, I was watching Made in Abyss a couple years ago with Mr. Ryu.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, there's this one, like, you see this dying human who's being eaten, and he's calling for help. But it turns out he's not. He's already dead, and the animal just mimics the last sounds it heard the human make as a human call. And it's like, that's fucking the worst. Like, that's
let me up you this. Apparently, tigers can mimic mating calls of other animals.
Yeah, also creepy. So, like, it's just like, that is really messed up by itself. Like, the idea of, like, a horror movie like Alien or something, where the alien thinks like a human can, like, just, like, no thank you.
Not even things like that. There was the movie called Screamers, I think.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
That was the gimmick, like because the enemy was so advanced that it started to mimic enemies, and like people were like doing like various things, like you have to find out the speech pattern to find out who's the monster and who's not.
Actually, there's also the movie Mimic, which had a couple sequels. Do you know what that one is?
Yeah, giant cockroach things.
Yeah, like how I think they're like houseflies or something. But like the creepy thing
I remember
like,
cockroach.
Maybe so, but like you know the thing with like how insects have like a really fast reproduction cycle. That's why there's so fucking many of them, and you can never get rid of them. So like by that logic, if you greatly enhance that in a lab, it would increase their rate of evolution. So it got to the point where these bugs became like man-sized, and they were capable of hunting man, but they still moved and acted like regular bugs. So just picture, you know how loud flies are when they buzz in your ear? Picture that shit. It's gross. But the thing that really got me was... the thing that really got me is, you know how when there are some animals that try to disguise themselves as others, if you walk up close, you can tell, but like the whole point is that it fools you at a distance? There's one scene in Mimic where the creature stood on like 2 legs and was really hunched over, and it had this like, I don't know, like membrane that folded over its face, and like it wouldn't fool anybody if you were standing right in front of it, but at a distance it looks kind of human, and like that's terrifying. Like, no thank you.
The thing is like that any kind of like you can't have human-sized insects because their endoskeleton could not bear.
Yeah, their biology would never allow for it. But fucking sci-fi horror movie, make it happen. You know.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah.
Like this is like going back to Warhammer 40k. It has a couple of very, very nasty monsters, like the mega arachnids and such.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But anyway,
but that's
you guys have any other
that's
takes?
a story for another podcast. I'm sure we've done a couple good Warhammer 40k ones in the past. I think.
I tip in with little bit of drops of information, hoping that people bite.
Yeah, yeah, those are the podcasts where Dracologist takes over like the entire thing.
I mean,
a little bit. But...
whoever would take over a podcast just for a single subject, only they're an expert on. I would.
Well, yeah, but that's the whole thing. Like you got wrestling, like Dracologist and I got horror. Dracologist alone has Warhammer. So there you go.
Vice has buying a lot of video games.
Maybe one day we can dissect like something like Hell's Reach.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's close this off a little bit by saying like, what's your guys' like favorite horror game? I know you talked about Shadow Man quite a lot today, but like, what's your real top game?
I mean, this is a little biased because it's looking with rose-colored glasses at some nostalgic games, but it's kind of a toss-up between Silent Hill 2 and Eternal Darkness.
Choose one.
I mean, I did just play Lovecraft, so let's say Eternal Darkness for now, but my opinion could easily change.
All right.
For me, like I don't have favorites, but like Undying Shadow Man, Eternal Darkness, I didn't play it besides, so I like it. What else was there? Of course, the Amnesia is something I really enjoyed, like Dark Descent. It's great. And yes, these games are pretty good. Well, and those little indie RPG Maker indie horror games, which are just fun.
No doubt.
Oh, sure. I mean, like, that's where Corpse Party came from, more or less. And, like, that was fantastic. That's certainly not the only one.
Ao Oni is hilarious in some way.
Mm-hmm. Alright, I haven't played that one yet. The only other RPG Maker horror game I played is Ebe. That's pretty scary, too.
That's great. That's a fantastic little game.
OldManStompy, do you have a favorite horror, then?
Favorite horror game? The scariest game that I've ever played is Silent Hill 2, and I haven't even finished that. I just got to one of the mannequin fights, and I was just like, nope, I'm done. I turned it off.
On one hand, it's really early, but on the other hand, those mannequins are creepy.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see. Like I said, I'm not a big horror guy. But I have played the Corpse Party games, but that's because those are like practically visual novels.
Yeah.
So it's like pretty easy to disconnect from them a little bit. But again, probably my favorites are Silent Hill 2 and 4. With 4 being the favorite one that I actually finished, and 2 just feeling like it was the scariest of the games.
Silent Hill 3 is also way up there in terms of scary.
Well, I don't own that one. I heard the HD remake was pretty bad, so I haven't picked it up.
Yeah, the way to play it is actually the only way to play it. It was a PS2 exclusive at first. Like Silent Hill 2 was released on Xbox and PC as well, but 3 I think was just PS2. Oh no, and PC.
Well, anyway, that was a pretty good talk, guys. I appreciate you guys coming on. Let's take a look. We have no fan comments for the day, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we did get a bunch of comments, but none that pertains to like addressing the previous fan question, really. There was some commentary on like the Halloween movie and like horror games and stuff like that, but they weren't like lining up with like, what is your opinion?
Okay. We have Vice's Way In, which we won't do because we cannot confirm or deny that Vice has lost or gained weight or remained exactly the same.
Well, I was going to say he either weighs nothing or is super dense because he's in that void.
Mm-hmm. I will say that I personally have been trying to like get to 170. I used to be like 140, and we tried to like work out and put some weight on, but then get it back off again because like I don't want to get fat, right? Yeah. Like I'm at that age where you have to start worrying about what you eat. So I'm sitting at like 168 or something like that, which is like exactly where I want to be. Pretty happy about that. So I'll take over Vice's Way In too.
Yeah, this is OldManStompy's Way In. But
so we have one question. You want to take this one?
Yeah, no, I'm always the guy who goes for this kind of thing. So Fakafon asks, can you think of any games where the theme of the scene, or the game as a whole, is contradicted by its gameplay? For example, Ogre Battle 64's theme is uniting the kingdom and eliminating injustice, avoiding conflicts, but you are very much encouraged to go out of your way and kill as many units as possible for their loot, like from a gameplay perspective. Or in like Detroit Become Human, it's like, you need to find this person now, but like you only move at walking speed, so it's like what? So like, are there any like weird little sort of contradictions like that you could think of?
Ludonarrative dissonance, you mean?
Mm-hmm. So generally speaking, like I think that last one hits on a lot of like a common theme that is very frequent, especially in role-playing games, where there's always like an impending doom, but you have exactly as much time as you need. Especially RPGs that have a turn-based combat system, because those are like slow as shit. And at the time, like there's like a meteor crashing into the planet, or like a demon that's about to be summoned, or Sin is attacking or something.
Yeah, well, like Kefka's gonna blow up the world, but if you want to finish any of your side quests, now's the time. It's like what?
Mm-hmm. So I think of Xenogears, where like when the final dungeon appears, it starts terraforming the planet at an alarming rate, but you still have exactly as much time as you need to actually head over there.
Yeah. Well, actually, my biggest example by far is Deus Ex Human Revolution, because Deus Ex, the series, is all about choice, and you can handle levels pretty much however you want. I would advise against firefights, but if you can pull it off, then good for you. But in Human Revolution, you are rewarded 10 points for a kill, 20 points for a non-lethal like tranquilizer takedown, 30 points for a lethal melee takedown, and 40 for a non-lethal. So guess what? I have all these cool guns, but I'm going to beat every fucking enemy in the entire game with non-lethal takedowns because that's how I maximize my level, you know? So, like, the game's all about choice, but there is a right way to play. Same goes for hacking. In Deus Ex 1, hacking was boring, and it was supposed to be. You waited for a bar to drain until you could futz with the machinery, until it would be like, blink, turn off cameras if you want. If you could upgrade your hacking skill, then you would have to wait less. And if you found the password for these terminals, you didn't need to hack at all. Your reward was being able to do everything you want. But in Human Revolution, you actually get skill points and money for hacking. And the hacking game is actually kind of fun. So even when I had the password, I would hack anyway for rewards. So, like, again, you could do whatever you want, except there's an optimal way. So, like, I feel that contradicted the theme of the game.
Dracologist, you got one?
I was thinking about like Saints Row games where you like can't like be ready for the next mission. We start about soon, or like I'm gonna bum around in the city for 5 hours or so.
Oh yeah, well, I mean like GTA is the same thing. There's a story, but like it can wait. Actually, this isn't really a contradiction, but I heard that Saints Row 4 had a similar level of effort put into its cars that Grand Theft Auto did. There's like a lot of different kinds of cars that drive differently, but who gives a shit? You're never going to use any of them because you can fly and run up walls. So it's kind of like, I feel bad for the developers. Like, it's like all that
actually,
yeah. I mean, you could drive if you want, but like you could fly, man, or you could flash run up buildings. It's like, well,
pretty much. That was fun, but they really just blow out the fun container to have everyone have like the bombastic time.
Yeah. So, I mean, like that's the point, but like it almost makes you feel bad for the devs putting all that effort into the cars when like
the
there's
cars
not
are
really
there
an
to
impetus
blow
to
up.
actually
The
use
cars are rolling explosions.
Yeah, it's also kind of funny in Zelda Majora's Mask, where like you get your horse and you're like, now I can move at the speed of like a horse running instead of a human running. But when you put on the bunny hood, you are even faster. So it's like, oh, sorry, Epona, bye, I guess.
So the Zelda games are kind of a good example, especially if you're like a completionist, and especially the newer games like Breath of the Wild. And I'd also extend this to like the Souls-style games. And well, I mean, I'm thinking of this personally because it applies to Hollow Knight. That's part of why I've been using it as so many examples in this week's like series of podcasts, just because I just got to the end. And that's that, like, these games tend to be themed around the sort of discovery and exploration, and the idea that you're trying to uncover the mystery of what happened, to, like, leave the realm and what state that it's in right now, and to try to figure out what you can do about it, you know, and to ascend to be a hero. But, like, if you aspire to completion, which the game usually rewards you for, that means you just, like, go and look up a guide where everything is. It's almost impossible to find everything by yourself.
That's a good point.
So, like, here you are. Obviously, somebody's already explored this whole place, and they've left you notes on a Wikipedia somewhere. And it breaks immersion a little bit. Like I said, it feels a little bit like grocery shopping.
Yeah, especially if you're looking for stuff like Korok seeds or whatever. We don't really need. You're like, oh, I'll just go out and get this one, I guess.
I mean, Korok seeds, even in Breath of the Wild, like, even the game kind of makes fun of you for, like, trying to get all of them. You only need a small fraction of them to actually expand.
That's true, but, like, just using a guide, like, because, Zelda 1 was based on, like, what, Miyamoto's, like, life as a kid, just going out in the backyard and, like, the forest and exploring, and it's like, or you could use a guide.
So, like Undertale will make fun of you for it too, right? If you have used the guide before and you know something that you shouldn't know, then it will say like, "Oh, you've seen this before, haven't you?" Or I can't remember if they explicitly mention YouTube, but like some games do that. I think Doki Doki Literature Club does in certain situations.
Yeah, it gets meta. Like I won't go into what, but it gets meta. Yeah.
A couple of games like they notice if you're Twitch streaming. I think Doki's another one that does that. Like they'll tell you not to do it because you'll spoil the storyline for everybody else.
Yeah, it didn't do that, but it had something. It was pretty great.
Okay, well, I'll leave that off because I know that's a project you're doing with Vice, and I don't want to ruin it. I like you, Lotus. I don't mind about Vice, but I'll save it for you.
Well, I mean, like, I just don't want, like, this is for any listeners, because Vice and I finally finished that game, so...
Oh, nice.
Feels good, man. And by the way, the way we've been recording that was that I would go over to his place and we would record for, like, maybe an hour, if we were lucky, because we had to do it when his girlfriend was out and about, because, like, otherwise... we'd have to have her, like, kicked out of her own fucking house so we could record games, because otherwise, like, sit down in a corner and be quiet for an hour. Like, that's not reasonable.
I know, that's like going to Lotus's house.
Hey, everybody, shut up, go away. But, like, so, like, we could only record for, like, an hour at a time, but the last recording session we did, she was out in New York for the weekend, so we had all day. Thank God, because when the game gets going... like, playing the game for, like, 45 minutes is really not an option. Like, It's like, you can't just stop. Like, no way. So thank God that it didn't get to that point before. We got to do all the insanity stuff at once, because that did take us several hours. Feels good, man. Now my heart goes doki doki every time.
Wow. Well, we are looking forward to that.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like I'll be able to tolerate that game if it's being played by, like, you and Vice. Like, it'll give me that level of disassociation that will let me, like, make it all the way through the storyline. I don't know if it's like terrifying or, like, existentially terrifying, but, like, it's hard for me to get invested in those games and, like, actually stick it all the way through.
With Doki Doki, I would not say it's... like, it has some scary, like, creepy imagery moments, but... I would say, honestly, it's really more, like, potentially triggering. It goes into some subjects. So, like,
yeah.
That's the real horror, you know? So, like, that's as far as I'll go with that. The game warns you when you turn it on, like, very sensitive material, but, like, shocking imagery sometimes.
Well, I mean, people tend to gloss over that a little bit because it's so widely used. If it says specific things, then that's one thing.
Yeah,
you know?
it goes into some sensitive subjects.
Okay.
Like, it's not, like, booga booga scary. It's more, like, makes you uncomfortable scary.
I can handle that, maybe. I don't know. I won't.
Find out.
I mean, it's a free game, right? So I don't have to worry about putting my money where my mouth is.
No, that's true. It's a free game. The only thing that costs is, like, the soundtrack. It's one of those. So that's another reason the game got so popular. Anybody could just get it, which is pretty great.
Sure. Well, anyway, that concludes the portion of the show where we advertise Lotus's Let's Plays for free, because this is also advertised on his
Thanks
channel.
for the question, Fakafon.
Anyway, that's the show for this week. We want to thank all of our fans, especially Fakafon, who answered the subject to our question this week.
Thank you for the increased hits, Fakafon.
Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own on the YouTube and Soundcloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs up, likes, and 5 stars, Poopy Supreme ratings on iTunes. It helps us.
Yeah, happy post-Halloween, everyone.
It helps us promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement keeps the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesdays on our sister podcast, Reactive Consciousness, where next week we probably won't be talking about wrestling, but no guarantees. The in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as OldManStompy on most major gaming and social media networks except Steam. I actually also reactivated my Twitter, so you can go find me on there too. I don't really use it for anything. You can find our host, should he deign to return to us from the mountainside.
Us mere mortals, yeah.
As I feel like I've used that one before. You can find him as
Olympus.
Yep, descended from Olympus Mons. As Vice the Bold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Battle.net, and I don't know, some other shit.
That's the thing. I don't even know why you list all this stuff. It's just like he's on everything. Just fuck it. There's like 8 things in there.
I will say that Vice actually plays games all the way to completion now, so when he says that he has like a Battle.net account, like whatever account he says, I actually believe that he's playing that specific game.
Anytime I hear Battle.net, I think, like, didn't Battle.net died?
I know, when I hear Battle.net, I think like Warcraft 2.
Yeah.
Well, I think of like Diablo, right? Like Diablo 2 and 3.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, Lotus, more free advertisement for yourself.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, more hits for me. More sweet YouTube views. So yeah, you can find me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or even getting in on a Discord chat with me and other patrons, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me on Steam, Skype, and the Discord in the layer of the Crocosquare channel.
Mm-hmm. And you can find Pyrojack Frost as Pyrojack Frost. I don't really remember where he really wants to be found, but he asked that we occasionally give him a shout out in case he's not on the podcast. So there it is.
We did it.
And you can find Minty Mitts just scaring me out of my fucking mind, apparently.
Happy Halloween!
Well, it's not dependent on the holiday at all.
Oh, that would actually be kind of great if Halloween's the one day where there's just nothing. Just like a
I know
regular day.
that's when you most expect it, right?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's our show for this week, and thanks for listening.
Until next time, everyone.
Good night.
Cheers.